Hello, everybody. Today I'm super excited to show you a concept that a lot of you guys have been suggesting ever since the start of this series. And a few other concepts, of course. Just a few things I want to start off with though. If you enjoy my game, I would heavily appreciate if you left a thumbs up on it, it helps me a lot. Also, thank you so much for 300k visits. I never thought I'd be here at such a high number of visits. But anyways, I added 4 new features to the main menu of the game: credits, changelog, feedback, and donate systems. If you come across a bug, please report it using the feedback system, and if you're feeling generous one day, I appreciate all of your donations, no matter the size. That's enough talk, let's just get into our concepts. The first thing you may notice when I come into the game is that the block I'm placing doesn't follow the 4x4 grid. This is a new build mode configuration. If you toggle this setting, the block will follow whichever grid snap you have set. Also, I fixed the duplicate feature, but let me know if you guys are still facing any problems with it. One more feature I added is the local/world space toggle. Basically, if the block is rotated, this toggle lets you choose whether to move it on the world grid or move it relative to its rotation. I added this new category on the sidebar. This was actually a suggestion from Vittenhall123 in my Discord server. This allows you to test the new concepts out more easily without having to look for ones that seem new to you. Also, real quick, just letting you guys know I added an autosave feature. Sorry I didn't add this sooner, but hopefully this will help anybody who forgot to save frequently and ran into a bug that forced them to leave the game. But forget that, because we now have a cutscene creator. Obviously, this is already in the game, but I added a lot of concept features to it that I think you guys will like. You can toggle whether or not this cutscene is skippable, and you also receive the estimated duration, to use for timed events or anything like that. Also, when choosing a cutscene to edit, you can now add 2 types of cutscenes to the list: mid cutscenes and outro cutscenes. This obviously gives you a glimpse on the concept that's about to come. But anyways, for mid cutscenes, you can set the post-teleport position. The player will teleport to wherever this marker is when the cutscene is over. Now, for cutscene actors, it has the player, any custom NPCs you created, and the NPC presets that are already in the game. For both the camera and focus point markers, once you place them, you can also move them around using handles to have a differently elevated camera or whatever. The transition, music ID, scene name, and dialogue work how they do in the official game. The speaker, however, works a little bit differently. So, obviously, it shows the placed actors as options for speakers. If it's a custom NPC, the dialogue color is their torso, or clothes, color. But these are only facilitating presets. You could set your own custom name and color. Shout out to the dev forum for helping me with some parts of this color wheel, and whoever made this colorable decal for simplifying the process by a lot. Let me know if you would like to see this in the regular color picking menu. Sorry that you got booted, Mason. Open parentheses. Anyways, more settings you can change are the text speed and ending delay of this scene. Now, there are also some new settings for each actor. First, you can move and rotate the character once it's already placed with handles instead of having to place it again. Second, you can place more than one walk to point. Third, you can give the actor an item. This only works if you typed in gear IDs in the config menu. Fourth, you can set the actor to be doing some sort of emote. As of now, they can only jump scare, does the legacy anim if it does not have a specified animation, but suggest any ideas using the feedback system. Fifth, you can set the speed of the actor, which only works if it has any walk to points. That's about it for the new features. I'm just going to work on a second scene real quick and then we can preview the cutscene. A cinematic masterpiece, I must say. But anyways, if you preview a cutscene, just beware that usually invisible blocks will still have their decals, but don't worry because that won't be the case when it actually plays while the game is running. With the escape block, you can choose whichever outro scenes you created, and there's now a spectate system. At the time of recording this, there's a bug where the cutscenes somehow duplicate a bunch of times. I'm working on fixing this. Oh my goodness, I forgot to shout out everybody who suggested concepts for the cutscene creator. Shout out to Smallest Channel 1 for the idea of adding more mid/outro cutscenes, Boris Theodore for the idea of emotes, Elmicah Smith for the idea of items, Human_Sushi for the idea of multiple walk to points, and the following people for the mid-cutscene block. David Protrol, Wyatruder, Felixupon1775, It's Wild, Zip_Zipa, Lola Maxter, Birdie4, and GX_owner, and maybe more that I missed. As you can see, a lot of people have been asking for this for a while, and I appreciate you guys for being patient with it, but now it's finally out. I'm going to reposition the teleport marker to demonstrate how the mid-cutscene block works. Anyways, as you can see when I run the game, the cutscene runs when I activate it using the advanced touch trigger. Once the cutscene is over, I teleport in the opposite corner, where we placed the marker. That's enough for the mid-cutscene block. Let's move on to the next concept, the Gamepass Block. I don't believe anybody commented this concept, but I did get this idea from somewhere, maybe one of Ernie C3's live streams. It's really simple, it just prompts, not forces, the player to buy the Game Pass of whichever ID you provided. You can use this for donations to your map or even as a regular Game Pass that the player has to buy to get some sort of perk or something, which I'll show how that works later. I found this random gravity coil Game Pass on another game just as a test. I copied the ID and set the Game Pass Block's ID to that. As you can see, when we press the button and activate the Game Pass Block, we get prompted to buy it. Let me show you a part of this feature you can use to detect when a player actually buys the Game Pass or already has it prior to getting prompted. So, I'm going to place a touch trigger that right away connects to an if gate so we can keep track of conditions for me as soon as I press play. In this if gate, we will set the has Game Pass setting at the bottom to our ID from before. As you can see, if we actually choose to buy the Game Pass, the if gate activates after a few seconds. It would activate right away if I previously owned the Game Pass. But anyways, you can connect the if gate to a player config block or something if you want a more speed Game Pass. This next concept, the camera block, was suggested by Palumath, Izui, and CoolBlocks240. It was also suggested by Konjal through the feedback system on the main menu of this game. Anyways, it's pretty self-explanatory. When activated, the players who activated it will set their camera position to wherever the camera block is for however long the signal is. It is compatible with the animate gate, so I'm going to set up an orbiting camera around the touch trigger. I'm also going to connect the touch trigger to a sustain gate so that once the touch trigger is deactivated, the camera block will deactivate 2 seconds later. As you can see, for as long as I step in the touch trigger, the camera rotates around it. 2 seconds after I step out, my camera reverts back to normal. The next section is just me making the same contraption without the sustain gate. The next concept is the digit code from alleys. This was suggested by Mr. Kai568, Billy_Zoable, TrickyPhase37, and PuffyAcorn8501. As the other in-game codes work, temple and ship, the actual code pad can be found in links and the code hints can be found in events. To demonstrate that the code directly affects the player, we will connect it to a player config block that makes me double size. As you can see, the code hints give us the numbers in the order we need to input them in. Then, using the code and incrementing or decrementing the numbers, once I put the correct numbers the link activates and I become double the size I was. The next concept is part of the UI category, the UI surface. This works similarly to the UI billboard, but it can still be a little confusing, so let me show you how to use it. You must place an adornee block. You can disregard the front label when using it for the UI billboard, but for the UI surface, it indicates where the UI will show. Anyways, link the UI surface to the adornee that you want to display elements on. Setting up the elements is the same as you would with a UI screen or billboard, simply link the UI surface to any elements you want to show. I'm going to link the frame element to a link hub to show how buttons work on the UI surface. Obviously, when you press down on the button, the link hub will activate, and when you release, the link hub will deactivate. The always on top setting will make it so you could see and interact with the UI even through walls. Also, I added a lighting influence by environment setting to both the UI surface and billboard, which decides whether the brightness of the UI is affected by the surrounding light and shadows. Now, that's enough for the UI surface. If you want to play around with it, you can join this game by pressing the link in the description. I do want to introduce 2 new elements to the game, the UI video and viewport. I will use these with the UI screen just to make things easier. Let's start with the UI video. I'm going to link the screen to the video. Let's look at the settings. The settings include the video ID, whether it's looped, whether it pauses or resets upon deactivation, and the volume. The background settings aren't here because videos don't have a background. Ever since this update released, you can now link signals directly to elements to toggle their visibility. The UI video's playing state depends on its visibility, so if you want to control a video, link something to it. I'm going to use a lever. Also, I realized I accidentally set up the UI screen in an inconvenient way in which what I thought was on the left side would be on the right side and vice versa. Let's try this again. As you can see, it works pretty similarly to how the regular video block works. Keep in mind that Roblox only allows 2 videos to be playing at the same time. Anyways, the next element is the UI viewport. This one's a little more complicated, but you could do cool things with it, so make sure to pay close attention. Basically, the viewport can display physical objects within a frame. And those objects are still compatible with the animate gate, meaning you could make spinning parts show up in UI using this element. You need to use the adornee block for this. You might be wondering why, and it's because the adornee block will act as the camera that's viewing the parts. The adornee block is also compatible with the animate gate, meaning you could make a moving/spinning camera. I'm just going to set up a spinning part using the animate gate really quick. If you're not sure how to do this, make sure to watch my previous video, concepts number 14. Anyways, you must link the viewport to both the adornee and whichever blocks you want to display. As you can see, the block shows up in the frame, and once the animate gate enables, the block starts spinning and imitating the movement and appearance of the block that we can see above the baseplate. The next concept, the Colorable Safe, was suggested by HotDogGD1, Riadita Piggyman 3, YST_3MK, Lost Media Fan, N8Y, and Humane7327. Anyways, this safe is simple to use. Just paint the safe whichever color you want it to be and make sure the players have access to a corresponding colored key. The only settings are the item you want to be in the safe and the color of that item. I'm going to put a pink key in the red safe so that once you unlock the red safe, you can unlock the pink safe. Of course, the safe can be opened by either clicking on it while the key is in your inventory or holding your key out and making it touch the safe. Perfect. As you can see, the safes work exactly as we expect them to. The next concept, in a separate recording, is environmental variables. This includes gravity, wind speed/angles, and water properties. You can find these variables in the configurations menu. Other than gravity, these settings only affect terrain blocks, grass, water, etc., and wind-affected particles, fire, smoke, particles, etc. I'm just going to speed through these because I don't want to spend too much time on them. These configurations save per map. Anyways, I'm going to just have this playing in the background sped up a little bit. Anyways, this is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I would heavily appreciate leaving a like. Also, if you enjoy my game, upvoting that helps a ton as well. If you have any concepts you want to suggest, leave them in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and if you come across any bugs, make sure to report them to me through the comments or through the feedback system in my game. Bye.